Africa as a continent, and the entire world. Give us knowledge and understanding, be amidst us, continue guiding us, and even give us that knowledge to be able to mitigate those challenges that our assessors will see and find. We render ourselves under your loving care as we bring this prayer to you through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Thank you very much. Pastor Mgora says after the prayer is no longer pastor. So can you please, he's looking for a job. Now it maybe Commissioner White and Dr. Shikanga, why don't you go upstairs so that we can see you? Dr. Shikanga and Dr. Allen, please go upstairs so that we can see you. So Commissioner Ruta is going to welcome the visitors. The microphone is there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makumbi. Good morning to you all. Once again, my name is Alan Muruta. I work as Commissioner Epidemiology and Disease Surveillance at Ministry of Health. Allow me to stand on the protocol. I know that we have colleagues from various multi-sectoral sectors, but just allow me to recognize the acting WR, Dr. Elizabeth. She's over there. Allow me to recognize the head of the team that is going to support the joint external evaluation. He's here with me. Dr. Shikanga is here with me. The team that is going to support the joint external evaluation, all of you that we have invited from the various sectors. Finally, the time has come that we have been preparing for. I want to believe that most of us are around, especially those who are going to present the technical areas for discussion. I am sure I'm going to be updated on that. Apologies for late starting. I believe all of you spent the night in Kampala Metropolitan, and we had quite a lot of rain. And as a tradition, after every heavy rain, there is traffic disruption for some reasons. To the visitors, to the guests who are coming to oversee this exercise, I want to let you know that we planned for this day. We went through all the relevant tools. We did our own internal evaluation, and now we want to present and compare notes. So once again, allow me to welcome all of you to this very important exercise. And I believe it's going to be very exciting. With those few remarks, I want to thank you very much. And let me hand over to the head of the team, the evaluation team, to be able to give a few words and also introduce the team. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, Director General, representatives from partner organizations, the acting WR, all our distinguished technical colleagues, both from government side, the diverse ministries, and from the partner organizations, whom I'm quite confident are also in the room today. The media, all friends of health security in Uganda, ladies and gentlemen, and in a humble way, the external subject matter experts that are in the room today, we are grateful for this opportunity and for the invitation from the country to be part of this second milestone in our health security as a country. Now, today is not a day for us making remarks. It's agreed that we shall go straight into business, but we may have some time and an opportunity tomorrow and then on Friday to make other remarks when the time and audience permits. But let me just say a couple of things, mainly for the reason of wanting to set the tone, because I think it's important that we set the tone. It's important that we set the tone because if we lack the initial understanding of who we are, what our roles are, what is the desirable best outcome, then we may end up, burning quite some man hours on sideshows that will deny us the opportunity to make the best of the moment that we have. And therefore, with your permission, Commissioner, I would want to just set some, let's say, 10 commandments that I propose to us that we most humbly but diligently, and borrowing from the words of the ex-pastor who said he would no longer be a pastor after the prayer, emotional intelligence that is going to guide our engagement starting now all through up to Friday. Then after that, I'm going to do a round of introduction of the 13 subject matter experts that have come from out to preside over this process. And then I hand over back to Commissioner and, most likely then start the process. And so the first thing that I would want us to remind ourselves is that we come in peace. Friends, we come in peace as friends of the system, as friends of the country. We each hold a flower in both our hands, and so we do not have any hand left under the table. So don't look for it. Don't look for any hand behind our backs. It's not there. Both our hands for each one of us are right in front of us. You can see them, and look, you will see a flower. No daggers, no knives. We come in peace. So in everything that we do, in every word that we issue forth, we come in peace as friends of the system. Friends of the system who want to help Uganda to assure health security for the country, primarily, and also help the country to play its global role, to continue being a responsible global contributor to health security, because the country has a role to assure the world of global security, that nothing emanating from this country will disturb global health security. And so we come in peace to help the country towards that direction. Secondly, we request for mutual trust, that in everything that we say and do, that we are focused primarily on the common good. And therefore also, to go with mutual trust, number 3, mutual respect, especially so in communication. We would beseech that as much as possible, we will not use communication that heightens tension or displeasure or dissatisfaction, or that sends anyone into a defensive mode, or that accuses, and that our communication as much as possible is going to be sensitive. But the documents are there. It is just you who has not looked hard enough. Number 4 is that the mission is not a policing adventure. We are not here to criticize the system. Critiquing is at times acceptable, but again, we wouldn't even want to look at it as if we are critiquing anyone, because that is not what we desire. Which leads me to number 5, that this is a peer-to-peer review. And you may recall that right from the outset of JEEs in 2016, JEEs have always been a peer-to-peer review mechanism, where you, our peers in the country, have diligently assessed yourselves, and then you receive these peers, these colleagues of yours from outside, who will help you to look at your report, your findings, with a magnifying lens, to just ensure that what we say is in place, is indeed in place. So it's a peer-to-peer review mechanism. No critiquing, no criticizing, no policing. So if there be anyone who is guarded out there, drop the guards. You won't need them. Number 6 is that we should all aim towards the best possible outcome for the country. If the best possible outcome for the country will be realized through ESCO 1, so be it. The best possible outcome for the country is not always going to be ESCO 5. But the humility of accepting that we have done a lot already, but just one thing has eluded us, and that one thing denies us to score a 5. And so can we humbly accept a 4 if it procures the best outcome for the country? That's where we stand, and that's where we request that we focus. Best possible outcome for the country. There are times when we have to reformat and move back one step so as to re-energize and have everything that is required in place for better progress for the country. And that's what we call for. Objectivity. Objectivity calls for us to accept what is there, what is not there, is not there. Number 8, let us stay with the JEE tool. You may have all sorts of other tools, including even WHO tools, that from place to place seem like they are varying from what is in the JEE tool. We urge that as much as possible, we focus and tether ourselves on the JEE tool and depart from any other tool if that tool may be contrary to the JEE tool, because this assessment is best on the JEE tool. There may be places, occasional places, where other existing documents or platforms may depart from the JEE tool, or the JEE tool may be departing from them. It is not in our province today to fight the tool, but rather to stay close to the tool. Number 9 is comparisons and competition. And let me say this mainly to disarm us, that we should not preoccupy ourselves comparing ourselves with our first JEE scores and the current scores. The tool as is not designed for comparison for about 3 reasons. So please do not attempt to compare our JEE1 scores and the current scores. We are not so much interested in the progression. We were at 2, then we must be at 4. You could have been at 2, but if the current tool calls that we score a 1, let us graciously and with grace accept it. So we are not comparing. We are not comparing now and the previous. We are not going to rank and compare Uganda versus Tanzania versus any other country, because the tool has other soft spots that may not allow for comparisons between jurisdictions and comparisons between the JEE1 and the current JEE. Lastly is, let us accept that if we have to go with objectivity, then, and you tell me there was an assessment, then please be ready to produce evidence of that assessment in terms of a report, in terms of findings and such other follow-up actions, documentation. Where documentation doesn't exist, we also call back that we reflect and say we may have had a weakness, because how could we conduct an assessment and we do not have a report thereof, which could be a foundational challenge that we need to go back and acknowledge. So if we ever find ourselves in such a dilemma, then I request that we call on objectivity and accept that where documentation doesn't exist, we look at it as if it did not happen. Or in the narrative, we could say something happened, but for purposes of scoring, we look at it as if it did not happen and have the right go at it. This is away from the 10 commandments, but I think we have set it off very well and we're in a good place. I like the silence in the room, and let us preserve it as much as possible. The silence in the room in terms of paying attention to the stage, paying attention to what is progressing up here, and as much as possible, if we need time for conversations, then there is a side room right under on the floor that's below us that has been designed for that purpose. But otherwise, in here, we will really encourage that we pay attention as much as possible. And also close to that, across the border, they say choices have consequences. If we choose to start late, we may end up quite late in the day. Please let us accept it if we have to provide some quality work. But on the flip side, the earlier we begin, the higher the chance that we finish in good time and knock off in good time. This is usually a very tedious, engaging process, and we will want to allocate adequate time for us to afford everyone an opportunity to canvass for their position. Away from the 10 commandments is the last thing. We know that the country has already gone through an internal assessment and that you have documented your findings and that you have had an opportunity to tear at each other until you attained consensus, which has been pushed to the JEE Secretariat. And so today we shall try and request for, as much as possible, very minimal engagement between the country teams or between our country colleagues, so that as much as possible, let the engagement be between the SMEs and the country team. We have been to JEEs in other places where the country team wants, 20, 30 minutes to reach consensus among themselves. Presumably, that has already passed and you have already attained consensus among yourselves. And so what remains is a friendly engagement between yourselves and ourselves. And if we are able to do that, then we could save on time and end up having a much more quality session. Again, we are quite blessed in this country with the ability to talk. We will request that when you have a session at the microphone, try and be straight to the point. Where you could use 10 words, please don't use 30 words. We could save on time and end up having much more quality, precise engagement. Thank you so much. Lastly, I will just request that our subject matter colleagues, experts from outside, quickly introduce themselves just by name, which organization you work for, and yeah, maybe just basically that. Yeah, so name, the organization and country where you're stationed, please. And if we could start with, so I'm going to lead the process, but I have a colleague from USID who is going to co-lead with me. And I would request if he could introduce himself first. Or you could come forward, Andrew, use this as we work around it. Yeah, please. Maybe just come on stage. And likewise, starting from that table, if you could just come. Well, yeah, all right. Solution is there. Thank you.
So my name is Dr. Andrew Thaya. I work for USAID in Kenya and East Africa. I'm the Global Health Security Advisor.
Excuse me.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Caroline Akim, an immunization expert and epidemiologist. I come from Tanzania.
Oh, sorry. Good morning, everybody. I'm Remedios Kakur from the United Republic of Tanzania as public health specialist working with Ministry of Health.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Lizzie Solohadi. I'm coming from Lesotho. I work in the National Health Training College in Lesotho as a senior academician. Thank you so much.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Faisal Gasa from Ethiopia, working as IHR National Focal Point and also National Awareness and Coordination Chairperson.
Good morning. My name is Tabitha Kimani. I'm working with FAO based in Nairobi, Kenya.
Good morning, all. My name is Motuma Kuyasa. I work with Africa CDC, mainly in emergency preparedness and response.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tendai Makamre. I'm currently serving as an infection prevention specialist with WHO based in the Nairobi hub, supporting countries in East and Southern Africa. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Kevin Makadzange. I work for the World Health Organization based in South Africa.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Tut. I work with Africa CDC based in Addis Ababa headquarters, and I'm a public health specialist. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Celestina Obieke. I work with Resolve to Save Lives based in Nigeria, laboratory specialist. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Dr. Kola Jinoju. I work for the WHO based in Nairobi. That's the emergency hub in Nairobi. And I support IHR monitoring and evaluation framework related activities. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shikanga, for the 10 commandments and introducing your experts. Right now, my role of welcoming you ended. I would like to ask the moderator of the first session to step forward so that we can start with the presentation. I want to believe that all of you have the program. We are going to start with country profile and overview of the national health system, public health and health security system. So do we have the moderator for the first session up to break? But you, as well as presenting? Okay. So you can take over. Thank you very much.
You want me to stand there? No way. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Shikanga, have you been in Uganda? Because the way you described the process, the behavior, you are just exactly you are talking about to us. This is the way we behave. Is that not correct? We are calm, we are objective, and we call a spade a spade. Is that not we are? That's what we are. And thank you very much for describing us so well. So, oh dear. What do I do? Because I don't want to present when I don't see what I'm presenting. Oh, but I can use my computer? Okay, let me go up there. Sorry. Okay, first, what is the first slide? Now. The first slide, there is Mr. Timothy Rubanga, Commissioner, Office of the Prime Minister. Is that what you are reading? Yeah? Let me see. Yeah. Okay. I'm standing in for this gentleman is in the Office of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister's office is the office where the Prime Minister is the lead of government business. And the person you see there on the screen who is supposed to present this was the coordinator. He coordinated about over 250 people for internal assessment. And I'm going to present this on his behalf as he comes. Nga is not changing. Has it changed? Hey, oh, my dear. No. Go back, please. Okay. Is that, general information about Uganda. Is that what you are saying? Good. So Uganda is a landlocked country situated in East Africa with a population of 48 million people, bordered by Kenya, South Sudan, DRC, Rwanda, and Tanzania. Uganda is called the Pearl of Africa due to its rich natural resources and beautiful landscapes. I hope you'll have time to see this because Dr. Shikanga, you want evidence. Uganda is a republic with 3 decentralized government. We have a national government, we have districts, and then sub-county. So we have about 146 districts. We don't have a regional tier, but we have functional regional tier for health. The climate is tropical with 2 main rainy seasons. I think, is this supposed to be a rainy season? This El Nino? Sometimes this rain comes out of season. Uganda is quite a small country, 241,000 square kilometers. And our literacy rate is over 80%. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. It's not my fault. Who is manning the slides? Okay. Hello. Next slide, please. They are moved. Okay. Sorry. No. Sorry. I should be moving. That's the problem. Why don't you put something here so that I don't have to call you all the time? Which one? Oh, okay. So I can move this. This one. Thank you. I've been told that this gadget can do the job. I'd gone very far. I was there. Sorry, Dr. Shikanga. Standing in for somebody can be dangerous. Dr. Shikanga and your team, our economy here is mainly agrarian. Uganda's economy is predominantly agriculture. 70% of Ugandans get their livelihood from agriculture, and agriculture contributes about 24% on our GDP. This country is well known for coffee and tea and others. We quite get some money from tourism, and it contributes quite a lot, 3% of our GDP. And you can see those animals for tourism, the mountain gorillas. Our health expenditure per capita is about 37. WHO, you have your standard. We are not yet there. Is it 80, over 80 something? Our health budget accounts for 7.7 of the national budget. Good. The disease burden here, 75% of our disease burden is preventive, and most of it is preventive, needing promotion, health promotion and disease prevention. Infections contribute about 66% of our burden of disease. Some of the diseases which we are struggling with, HIV, TB, malaria, and so on, acute respiratory infection. However, malaria is the leading cause of death in Uganda, 20% of hospital deaths, and over $500 million economic losses due to malaria. However, plans are underway to eliminate malaria 2030. The health sector tiers are, the health sector is structured in 2 various tiers: national, district, and we have regional hospitals and health centers. We have over 1,567 health centers of Health Center 4 and Health Center 3. we have 156 hospitals and 1,578 private facilities. We have a laboratory network and 2 laboratory reference labs for TB and virus. The accessibility to health services in Uganda is about 86%, population within 5 kilometers. Some of the vital statistics: life expectancy here is 64, under 5 mortality 42, infant mortality 36, neonatal mortality 27, and maternal mortality is 189 per 100,000 births. Public health emergency: the country has the over disaster policy at the office of the Prime Minister, but public health emergencies are delegated to the Ministry of Health as the lead sector or agency. There's One Health platform for multi-sectoral preparedness and response for public health emergencies. The public health emergency EPR plan spans from the President's office, office of the Prime Minister, down to the village level for strategic, operational, and tactical management and control of these outbreaks or emergencies. What are some of the major challenges? We have a rapid growth of population, which I don't know, it's quite high. We have also many districts which are outweigh our development. We have big out-of-pocket spending for health services, no national insurance. Climate change is really giving us hell and bloody nose, and as far as emergencies are concerned. Frequent inflow of refugees all the time. Even now, they are coming in as I talk. Of course, COVID really made us erode some of our gains. One of the examples I can give you is that 20% decrease of immunization coverage was due to the effect of COVID. Thank you very much. That is the brief of Uganda. I present this on behalf of our commissioner from the office of the Prime Minister. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Obugalo. Let me now take on another hat until the commissioner comes. Solomon, which group do we start with? Legal? Very good. Whom do I give? Who's the leader? Where is the leader? That side? So, Dr. Shikanga, we are starting with the technical area, legal. And please introduce yourself. I may not introduce you so well. Please introduce yourself. Where is the presentation? So, this is in front. Yeah, come and let me see. Now it's gone back. In front. So you just press this. This is the one that's like oh. So you tell me next. I'll. Are you going to use this? This is in front. This is backward. You try it. That one backward, go back.
This one is not working.
This one isn't working. Go back.
So I
here.
don't need this.
You don't need it. So go back here. Yeah. And okay.
So
Do you think it's okay for your team to sit?
yeah, it's okay if they want to. I don't really want to. If they want.
Not
I wouldn't yes.
Yes, they want questions and interaction. So we're going to
So I have to bring my okay, let them come out. Yes, let them come out. Okay, okay, that's fine. As I get my spectacles. I
was told you wanted the lady from gender.
Yes,
Dr.
she's going to present the second part.
Yes. Then the Dr. Moki should go up and Martha should go up.
I think that's fine.
Okay. So do I tell them to sit up in the meantime?
So DG, as we wait for preparations from the country team, so the arrangement is going to be from our side, that the technical area lead from our side and the technical area co-lead are going to cross over and sit in front. And hopefully also the country team will find it acceptable to come and sit in front. And just a bit of guidance on time. So if you're presenting a technical area that has 2 indicators, we would urge you to present within 7 minutes. 3 to 4 indicators, we would urge you to present in 10 minutes. And if your indicators are above 4, we would urge you to present in about 13 minutes so that we can try and keep time. And so for this particular area, the lead is going to be our colleague Remedias, and I'm going to provide support. Thank you so much.
My name is no, my name is it's okay. Okay, can say okay, whenever you say okay, can say the name. I can read my name. Mwa kuanza kufungia kubira. Mwa kufungia kubira. Mbamai. Gender.
Don't worry. It's just Poco.
Nedde bajja kwongera kubisaalaazi nayo kubinyera ebiri title bimala.
Abagenda kwogera busobola kubawulira
Nzinze saala era biri.
tofaayo ebyo si kyo kyetusobola nti gwe kaka
Mbaganye.
si kugenda
Mbaganye. 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 Mbaganye.
n'abali wano tebakumanyi fefe abakutegeera but it's okay.
Kimalira ddala bamanyi atamanyi nziza agasa atamanyi tagasa.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the session on the first technical area, which is on legal instruments to support the implementation of international health regulation. I'm honored to introduce to you Madam Sala, who is going to take us through the presentation on legal instruments. Madam Sala, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, our external exam evaluators, apologies, and my colleagues from government and the development partners. I'm Sarah Mitanda. I work with the Ministry of Justice. So I'll be presenting the part on the legal instruments. And my colleague from the Ministry of Gender will present the next part on the gender equality issues. So these are the abbreviations we've used in the Act, but we shall read them out in full, so we can skip this for now. It will confuse us. So this is a background on the technical area of legal instruments, which we reviewed, and we agreed that in 2017, the legal mapping was informed by the priority legal regimes that were identified to support implementation of the international health regulations and the OIE requirements. And the priority legal regimes are the Public Health Act, which has since been amended, the Animal Diseases Act, which is in the process of being amended, and food security laws, for which we are going to draft a bill and create an authority. So for the Animal Diseases Act, the Ministry of Justice is working with is supporting the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries to draft the bill, to amend that bill. The bill is a 1935 bill, I think. The Act is a 1935 Act, so it's being brought up to date to include the issues that are pertaining in Uganda right now. The Food Safety Bill, Cabinet has approved that we have a bill to regulate food safety in Uganda, and the process has started. The Ministry of Agriculture is in the process of doing the cabinet principles that will inform the instructions on which we shall draft the bill. The Public Health Act was amended in 2023 February this year, and it has commenced, and I'm sure it's being implemented by the Ministry of Health and all the concerned stakeholders. So we looked at our strengths and our best practices, and we agreed that the legislative framework is robust and is aligned to the international and regional legal frameworks. So for this area, the best practices are that Uganda is a sovereign state, and so the sovereignty has to be maintained at all times as we align to the international and regional frameworks. And we hold multi-sectoral consultations for all the stakeholders concerned for all the bills that we draft. And so we also concluded that our legal framework is harmonized with the existing international and legal frameworks. It's not lacking in any of those areas. Our second strength is that there's a strong stakeholder consultation in the government. So there's, like we said in the first one, we carry out multi-sectoral consultations with all the people concerned. There's a strong institutional framework of law, development, and enforcement. And for this, there's interagency collaboration, spearheaded by the Ministry of Justice. For the areas that need strengthening, we identified law enforcement during public health emergencies. And this, COVID was one such example. And the challenge is because there's inadequate sensitization on the enforcement of the public health laws. So the public is taken unawares, and so are the implementers. Secondly, we need to strengthen legal preparedness. And this should form part of the public health preparedness, prevention, detection, and response to health emergencies. And this is because there's no inclusion or there's poor consideration of the legal frameworks in preparedness planning. Thirdly, Uganda needs to identify the processes, the gaps, the effects, and the results areas in preparedness, prevention, detection, and response in health emergencies. There's also a need for inclusion of the legal aspects during the assessments of inter-action review and after-action reviews. And the challenge with this is because there's inadequate prioritization of the legal aspects during preparedness, prevention, detection, and response. The fourth point that needs to be strengthened is the infrastructure to facilitate enforcement of laws. Currently, there's inadequate infrastructure to facilitate enforcement of laws. For example, on animal holding grounds, animal checkpoints, and quarantine centers. So with all those assessments and the challenges and the shortcomings, we concluded that Uganda was at level 4. Apologies, I can't read that. I can only read it from my phone. It's very far. So we concluded that Uganda has conducted a legal analysis, which is the legal mapping and legal assessment, and has identified and reviewed gaps in all sectors and across government levels, and has developed, where necessary, and has revised, where necessary, the legal instruments for international health regulation implementation at national and intermediate levels, where applicable. So moving forward, what are we recommending for action on recommendations? It was proposed that the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries fast tracks finalization of the two bills that are with the ministry, that is the Animal Diseases Amendment Bill and the Food Safety Bill. We also recommended that the line ministries, which include the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, and the Ministry of Water and Environment, as well as government departments, including the Uganda Police Force, Uganda People's Defense Force, and the Uganda Prison Services, and other agencies, including the Uganda Wildlife Authority, they should research, plan, and budget for legal aspects of public health preparedness, prevention, detection, and response of public health emergencies. We also recommend that the line ministries, departments, and agencies mentioned in the point above should include a pillar of legal aspects in public health preparedness, prevention, detection, and response of public health emergencies. So these are the documents we referred to as we're evaluating Uganda. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you said there is a continuation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe we'll combine the clap while the other colleague has presented.
I would like to thank the joint evaluation team and my colleagues. No, they should.
This one is forward. This is backward.
My name is Angela Nakafero. I'm the Commissioner, Gender and Women Affairs, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. My assignment today is to take you through the component on gender equality in public health emergencies. In terms of the laws, as a country, we really have a strong enabling legal and policy framework on the delivery of gender equality and women's empowerment in this country. And we've taken deliberate efforts to implement, including implementing a gender and equity responsive planning and budgeting, which is informed by the Public Finance Management Act. Our constitution is very clear in terms of gender equality. We have Article 21, which is on equality and freedom from all forms of discrimination, including on grounds of sex and gender. Article 32 is on the right to life, regardless of who, in terms of age and sex. And then Article 32 is on affirmative action in favor of the marginalized, where women have been provided 30% in terms of leadership, education, and other structures. We also have Article 33 on the rights of women, and one of them is equality to a life of dignity, which we celebrate as a country. There are equally other articles that are relevant in terms of gender equality in Uganda. As a country, we have an Equal Opportunities Commission Act, of 2007, which defines, okay, I'm told my time is over. We have the gender policy, we have the National Development Plan, where we've defined program implementation action plan, especially community mobilization and mindset change, human capital development, that are really relevant to the subject we are talking about. In terms of our strength really lies in a strong institutional framework. We have a ministry that designated for promoting gender equality, but also dealing with issues of marginalization and discrimination. Enabling laws, which I've already presented. We have the structures right from the national level to the parish level that are designated for the delivery of gender equality, but also dealing with issues of marginalization and discrimination. The political will is very clear, and what is really standing out is the multi-sectoral approach and multi-stakeholder approach in the defining and delivery of our programs. We have a strong collaboration with almost all stakeholders, cultural institutions, religious institutions, civil society, private sector, including our development partners. In terms of the best practice, our constitution is really a very good practice that has informed a number of laws and policies in Uganda for gender equality and women's empowerment. And within the constitution, you find the 30% mandatory in terms of participation and representation in decision making. We've defined programs on critical issues that are undermining gender equality in this country. You'll come across our programs on elimination of gender-based violence. You'll also come across programs on elimination of negative social norms. For instance, female genital mutilation has a lot of implication to the health standards. We have prioritized gender and equity issues in our third national development plan, but also in sector-specific strategies and plans. We've defined our national priority gender indicators that we are using in terms of assessing our progress. Of course, we have areas that need strengthening, especially in terms of capacity strengthening across ministries and agencies for the delivery of gender equality and women's empowerment. We also need to do deep analysis of emerging gender issues. The experience of COVID was a wake-up call that indicated that at times we don't plan for some of these issues, so we need to be mindful of the gender issues and provide for interventions to address them. That also addresses the issues of challenges in terms of capacity strengthening, but also deeper analysis of the gender and equity issues. And of course, dealing with the contradictions in our laws. I'm about to finish. So capacity building is the way to go in terms of gender equality and women's empowerment, promoting positive social norms and values. And I'm glad we've already defined a program on community mobilization and mindset change that is fully funded by government of Uganda, but also in terms of coming up with new strategies for elimination of gender inequalities. So in terms of our overall assessment, we've rated ourselves at 4 because we feel that we've taken deliberate interventions to define the critical issues, but also in terms of coming up with strategies to address the issues regarding public health in Uganda. We've done well in terms of immunization. We still have a lot of work in terms of Risk to communication and community engagement, we've done relatively well in terms of financing. Of course, we need to do better, but also in terms of the legal instruments. So we feel that we are at level 4 because there's quite a lot of work going on. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind attention.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam Angela, can you also come in front? So maybe before we start, we need to have a mechanism to congratulate our presenters. So I don't know if there is any proposal, but if there is no any proposal, then I can suggest mine. Yeah?
Milton, you can give us a proposal. Milton.
Milton, yes.
Milton.
My friend.
So we love Swahili. Asante, eh? So that's what we do here. Asante sana. Then we applaud 3 times for our presenters. We shall use that. But I think we also open, we could learn from you what yours is, and maybe we can relate. Asante sana. Yongeza tena. That is ours.
That's the best. And actually, I think it's the best than mine. We want to start. Thank you very much, presenters, for taking us through the legal instruments. This is one of the backbone of the international health regulation. And when we start, I want to mention that when you look at the legal instruments, actually, we want to look at whether the Republic of Uganda, you have adequate legal instrument to support, but also enable the implementation in terms of the implementation of the obligation under International Health Regulation 2005. But also we want to look at the current legal instruments, if they fully support the implementation of IHR. And I'm very much impressed by the number of legislations which you have. I think it's a plus. You have done a lot. And when I was reading through your documents, actually first I met with, one of the acts was of 1918, the First World War. But I found that now you are in the amendment process. So that was very nice. And actually also the Public Health Act, I think was a way back as well, 1930 something, 35. And I think you came up now with the new one, which is very nice. So those are the things which are very positive to me, and I congratulate the country for that. I have some few questions before we go to the scoring and listening to the floor as well. One, I found that one of it, you have a very good report on legal mapping, which was conducted, the report of March 2nd, 2017, which you touched on almost 11 international health regulation action packages. And actually, those action packages, they are related to IHR because they look at the prevent, they look at the detect, they look at the respond. So my first question is, the analysis, was it, I did not see anything, if you looked at the issues of chemical, the issues of points of entry, and the issues of radiation. The legal framework looking at those key elements of IHR as potential hazards, regulated and IHR. So presenters, I will wish to get the clarification on the issues of chemical points of entry and radiation legal framework. And the second issue from me is that IHR can be implemented, need to be implemented at the lower level. And I learned also that you have a system to make ordinances and bylaws. So we want to understand if also you have come up with ordinances and bylaws which help the implementation at the lower level. Okay? So those are two questions. And when I went through the report again, I found you clearly indicated in your legal analysis report that there is no law which was found related to biosafety, national laboratory, emergency management, and the medical countermeasures. You indicated in your legal analysis report. So I might also need some clarification on whether these elements which are key have been covered in other legal instruments. And finally, I looked at the conclusion of the consultants, which indicated that probably you need a standalone legislation to support the IHR implementation. So I want to hear from you, your comment, whether you need a standalone, or do you think that different legislations will be adequate to support the IHR implementation. And I'm happy that also you have Public Health Act of 2023. So maybe to start with, let us get some responses on those few areas and legal, and then I will ask some clarification on gender. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. I hope I have understood them. In terms of radiation chemical, we have the Atomic Energy Council Act. I don't know whether you want to have a look at that one. Okay, then in terms of points of entry, I hope you mean implementation of health measures at the points of entry. Is that what you mean? Implementation of health measures at the points of entry.
Yes, but when you look at your mapping report, you went very systematic, which was very good. Looking at each area, you looked at the lab, antimicrobial, and other areas, but you did not touch anything on radiation to look at whether you have gaps or you don't have any gap.
Okay. So I think the available law is sufficient, which I think we shall share with you. Okay. Atomic Energy Council. We shall share that particular law with you. It's available. But I'm still wondering about the points of entry, what you meant by your question. The points of entry, because right now in Uganda, we have the Public Health Amendment Act, and Section 36 of that Act covers for points of entry. Under that particular section, we have the Public Health Prevention of Infectious Diseases, Conditions of Entry Order, and it's also under review. However, we have used it to respond to public health emergencies like the COVID-19 outbreak. Most of our laws that we used to restrict entry at the points of entry, to medically examine travelers, all that is covered under that particular law. So we shall have to introduce or share with you the contents of Section 36. I must add that right now, that particular provision is under review. So in Uganda at the moment, the primary law for the implementation of the international health regulations, the Public Health Act and the Animal Diseases Act. So like we mentioned in our presentation, the Public Health Act was passed by the President this year in February. And the Animal Diseases Act, the principles for amendment were actually approved as well, and we have proof of the cabinet extract. So in terms of points of entry, we shall introduce to you the current amendment. It is an amendment to Section 36, and we shall introduce to you the order that is under review to actually include articles of the international health regulations in there. I thank you. And then in terms of implementation at the lower level, we shall introduce to you Section 5A of the Public Health Act, which puts a relationship between the local government and the Director General of Health Services. So that particular amendment was introduced to ensure that we have actual implementation of international health regulations right from the village level. So we have a reporting structure which encourages us to detect, to report, and to respond right from the village health teams. So we shall introduce that provision to you. And the Local Government Act allows us to come up with ordinances and bylaws if at all the laws in the acts are not sufficient. So for now, we are relying on that particular provision in section in the Public Health Amendment Act. But they actually, if we want, we can actually pass ordinances and bylaws. But for now, I've not seen a need for it because I would have actually pointed it out. So we're working very closely with the Local Government Act, the local government district councils. And if we go through the Public Health Amendment Act very well together with you, the evaluators, you'll see that most of the implementation of public health is actually at local government level. And the amendment is very clear on that. So I would like to boast that the Public Health Amendment Act focuses so much on coordination, collaboration, communication between the district health officer and the Director General of Health Services. It's extremely important because we are trying to ensure that we do not only implement IHR, but we're also implementing IDSR, what is in there. And then in terms of biosafety and biosecurity, and I think the protection in the national labs, medical countermeasures, I must say in terms of biosafety, biosecurity, this process has stalled because I know you may want to see a specific law on this. Right now, we are just working on it, and we are being guided by the Africa CDC legal framework for biosafety and biosecurity. However, that's not to say that Uganda does not have protection measures in laboratories. We have what they call the OSH, Occupational Safety and Health Act. And we shall introduce to you that law. Good enough, we have the team from Ministry of Gender, that is their law. It ensures protection of the worker, even in the lab. Okay. However, we shall have to go an extra mile to ensure this comes out clearly in the biosafety, biosecurity law, because I know you want to see us focusing on training the lab people on biosafety and biosecurity and the protection measures and all the minimum standards therein. Then in terms of biosecurity, for now we are relying on the Anti-Terrorism Act, which briefly talks about provisions to do with against biological weapons. So like many countries in Africa, I think we are still working on the biosafety, biosecurity law. I'm yet to see a country which has achieved that. Most of us are having biotechnology laws that we are calling biosafety laws. And then a standalone legislation to support IHR implementation, that is really impossible. I don't know. I must say from my experience in the last 5 years in the health sector, The laws that implement IHR, the primary ones, like I explained earlier, the primary laws are two for our country: the Public Health Act and the Animal Diseases Act. And that's where we are focusing so much as government to ensure those laws are amended. And then there are many other laws that can implement the international health regulations, but it cannot be just a standalone legislation. I would like to advise against that. Because you would see a mixture of mandates of ministries in one law that can cause tension and difficulty in the implementation of the international health regulations. So I would like to advise against that. I thank you. I hope I have touched on. Maybe I would love that my colleague, actually the legal advisor of government, responds fully. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Mine is to supplement on what she has said from a government point of view, what is pertaining right now. On biosafety and biosecurity, there's a meeting, I think it was last week or this week, in the office of the Prime Minister, because it's very, very cross-cutting, it's very multi-sectoral. So the principles are being developed for this. It's being revived under the office of the Prime Minister as the office to spearhead it. So in Uganda, like in all Commonwealth countries, the laws are really the same, and because of the colonial background, the laws are drafted the same. So if you look at the Public Health Act of so many countries, it will almost read the same. So the intention then in the 1930s, was that it's implemented by the local governments. It's written for the Minister of Health, but he or she makes regulations for the local governments. So even when we don't have ordinances and bylaws for all the districts, which may not be possible, they have regulations that are used by the officers that look out for the different aspects of public health, which include the ones of IHR at the local government levels. So to supplement on what the list of Martha on chemicals, we have the National Environment Act regulations on chemicals, regulating chemicals. We have the Agricultural Chemicals Act to regulate chemicals used in agriculture. And at all the borders of Uganda, on the points of entry, we've got people from the National Drug Authority that sit there. We have people from the Bureau of Standards. We have people from the Ministry of Agriculture to look out for live crops and animals and all those things that are imported into Uganda. So the chemicals that enter Uganda are curtailed and regulated at that level by the officers who sit there, and they determine the goods to come into Uganda, as well as the Customs Authority. They also determine what you can bring in and what you cannot bring in under the East African Customs Management Act. It has a list of things that are prohibited and the things that can enter the East African Community area. So there's another one on national laboratories. I think there was an attempt, but government does not normally write laws to regulate itself. So the private labs are regulated under the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act. I don't know how you would regulate a national lab. And there are labs for agriculture, there are labs for National Drug Authority, there are labs for everybody. So you would not have one law regulating all the laboratories. It's very difficult to have a standalone laws for all these areas. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that coordinated response. Thank you very much. Really appreciate. Did you talk to anything on radiation? You missed radiation. Can you just half a minute talk a little bit on Radiation Act?
So it's not a Radiation Act. It's called Atomic Energy Council Act. Okay? So it covers radiation, chemicals, and all that. It falls under the Ministry of Energy. I think we have to introduce to all these laws. Good enough, they are already available. Then in terms of the medical countermeasures, we have a legal regime under the National Drug Authority that regulate drugs, vaccines, diagnostic tests and all that. Yeah.
All right. The last part on gender, I have only one question. For gender, actually, I had to go through the consultant's report by Dr. Catherine Odenyo, which was looking at the gender equity, social inclusion, and yes, they touched in many areas which are related to IHR. But I want to learn that the actions proposed, were they funded and implemented? Because like I found somewhere in the National Health Security where you proposed an activity for a funding to coordinate the equity, inclusion, and human rights in health security. And you had a budget of 640 million. I think it's Uganda shilling. I don't know whether it's dollar or what. So I want to learn from you whether you were able to secure the fund so that you update the document as proposed in the consultant's report. Thank you.
Thank you. On that Catherine report, we did not update because the current NAP was coming almost to an end. So we agreed as a country that we would rather wait and then we put all those in this coming NAP, which we are going to do, rather than just putting when we are remaining with very little time for the NAP to end.
So you mean all the proposed good actions were not implemented? You don't have the fund, you do not have fund to implement them, right?
I would maybe say yes or no, in the sense that in Uganda, because of the Public Finance Management Act, that requires that every budget to be approved by Parliament must have a certificate of gender equity. So in a way, there is some form of mainstreaming, but for those standalone actions proposed by Catherine, they are the ones which we did not implement.
So thank you very much. Now we go back to the score. Unless if there is any contribution from the floor, then we go straight to the score, and then I think you have some few minutes to end up that. If there is no comments,
maybe just I had a number of issues, but I don't think they'll change the argument very much. And I must really thank you for your eloquent finesse in understanding what is happening in the legal environment. It makes things so clear, and maybe we will just come back to you to tell us what else haven't you given us that exists that will obviate the need for us to even interrogate these things further. But I need to make a point to this, that the legal mapping was done in 2017, and the report that you present to us is still in draft form 6 years down the line, which I don't know what you're going to say about it. We would have expected some form of, when you're dealing with these legal people, you have to be very careful with the language that you use. But we will have expected some form of, government, approval of the draft so that it no longer appears as a draft. And so one thing that is at the back of my mind is, so if it's in draft, how have we adequately used the draft to then progress from there to the recommendations that will be expected out of it? For gender, I just also wanted us to put our finger on the admission that the action plan or any action plan that would have been expected has not advanced, and deliberately it hasn't advanced, and that we are aware that it hasn't advanced, because that is likely to come up later on when we're making the closing arguments. Over to you on the draft nature of the report.
I can comment very briefly. It's actually supposed to be a final copy, and I think the one which was submitted is in draft, but we shall provide it. However, to allay your fears, and not look like I'm being such a lawyer, the work that we are doing as the National Action Plan for Health Security, I'm the legal advisor on that team, by the way, I forgot to introduce myself. The work that we have been doing for the last 5 years is a result of that legal mapping. So my contract depends on ensuring that the legal framework that was identified for review is actually amended. And for so far, I'm scoring around 50% because we have worked on one principal act, the very old one of 1935, and now we are working with MAIF to ensure that Animal Disease Act is fast-tracked. That will be easier. Sorry, MAIF is the ministry responsible for animal health. That will be an easier one because most of us are farmers, so we want to see this law move. So to allay your fears, my contract depends on ensuring that the legal assessment or the legal mapping becomes the recommendations become a reality. So we shall ensure we provide Dr. Makumbi, I hope you're listening. We have to provide the final copy of the assessment. It's in draft form, and I think that was an error on our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Yes, is there any?
We have somebody from the audience here.
Okay, go ahead.
With a comment.
Thank you. I'm Kisache John from Energy Council. As regards the legal framework for atomic energy, there is Atomic Energy Act number 24 of 2008. This act is under review to incorporate what was missing to provide for the promotion of nuclear energy in the country. And under section 73 of the act, we have the mandate to get other regulations from it. For example, currently, we are drafting the regulations for control of radioactivity in the foodstuffs, construction material, naturally occurring radioactive material, waste management, transport of radioactive material, and so on. But all these regulations are going to cooperate the purpose of protecting the environment, society, and the people from the dangers of ionizing radiation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such an additional information. Thank you, we appreciate. So may I request the secretary to display the results for the legal, the proposed results.
And as we wait for the results to be beamed, we are allowing quite a bit of, we are being generous with time on the first indicator. But for subsequent, for first technical area, but subsequent technical areas, we shall be a bit more tight on time. So please expect it.
Sorry, please bring the point. You have told me. Thank you.
Okay, so we start. May I also recall the words from the team lead that we are going to stick on the tool. And then we want to check if from the presentation and the discussion, where are we? That's okay? All right, good. So when you look at the tool, the first level is talking about the country has conducted mapping, the legal mapping. I think you have done that, right? We have done that, and you have a report of 2017. And then when you go to the second one, is talking about the legal mapping. I think I can't read very properly.
the second level is the country has conducted a legal mapping of relevant legal instruments for IHR implementation at the national and intermediate levels and documented where applicable.
Okay, so wait there. So the second indicator, the mapping at national level and intermediate level where applicable has been conducted. I think there were explanation on the issue of intermediate level, right? I think, Madam, you mentioned something on intermediate level that maybe your sections do not require the development of the bylaws and ordinance at the intermediate level. Yes, because once you have a Public Health Act, sometimes you need either a regulation or ordinance or a bylaw to operationalize it at the lower level. So what do we say on that point? Have we done that? Can you respond very quickly?
Yes, sir, we have regulations made under the Public Health Act by the Minister of Health to be implemented by all the local governments. So the local governments do not have to come up with individual ordinances and bylaws. They implement the same regulation across the country.
On IHR?
Yes.
Madam?
Yes.
On
Yes.
IHR, International Health Regulation. You see, you have amended the Health Act based on the findings of legal mapping analysis, and you have the act already of 2023. And you have a section somewhere which gives the power to the Honorable Minister to make regulation for the lower level. Have we done that? We haven't done that, right? Can you comment, please?
So I needed us to be clear about something. The public health laws in Uganda are implemented at local government level. So the constitution is clear. The central government makes the laws, the policies, but the implementation, day-to-day routine response, outbreak response, sanitation, it's at local government level. That's why I mentioned section 5A. It causes communication and collaboration and coordination between the district health officers, that is now at the intermediate level, with the Director General Health Services. This is very important because even the available public health notifiable disease rules talks about the responsibility of the medical officer. Who's the medical officer in that particular rules? It's a district health officer. So like I said, here in Uganda, we pass bylaws and ordinances where it is necessary. So our public health laws cut across here, Kampala, Masaka, Kata, Kwigulu, all these, how many districts we have? All the, there are over 146? Oh, God, that is even more than that I thought. So, yeah, so we even for sanitation, we have, but it cuts across. So I hope that's clear.
We are okay.
Yes.
We are okay. Yes. So my fellow want to intervene.
So we agree with that because level 2, and I think you have been very convincing, the country has conducted a legal mapping of all those things and documented. So you have promised you'll give us a government-approved report, not the draft report. So documentation is clear.
Yeah, sure.
And we have taken note that we shall see the government-approved. But level 3, and just moving forward, level 3, the country has conducted a legal analysis, and we have already gone into the definition of analysis, which is mapping and a bit more of in-depth, including gap identification.
Sure.
And you know, analysis is a bit more deeper than just mapping. And so for that, we quite well understand. But it goes on to say, and identified and reviewed gaps in the health sector and developed and or revised the necessary legal instruments for IHR implementation at the national and intermediate levels where applicable. And for me, because I would want us to save on time, I would want to agree that you have done analysis, which means mapping and going in to find gaps. And I would want to agree that you have done prioritization. You've identified what needs to be done. So to me, you fulfill level 3 very well. So I just want to accelerate so that we see if we can save on time. Unless if one of my colleagues has gone in and found a gap, which it's a normal thing when we are doing this process. If a colleague sees that we have not met level 3, then you can quickly point it out so that we do not draw that conclusion. Level 4 says you have done all those things, legal analysis, and identified and reviewed gaps in all sectors, which you have done, and across government levels, and developed and or revised. I'm putting my fingers in the next couple of words. The necessary legal instruments for IHR implementation at the national and intermediate levels where applicable.
So maybe as you are preparing to respond, whether you agree to level 3, which we feel like you are at level 3, when you look at level 4, the spirit of this one, in order to be in a particular level, it means all the indicators in that particular level need to be completed. So if there is one which haven't been implemented, then you need to go back to this, to a bit lower levels to allow you to implement what you haven't implemented in that indicator. So if you look at level 4, I can agree that you are in the process. Some of the legislation, like the food safety bill, the animal, whatever, you are in the process to do what? To revise them and do whatever to support the IHR. But Public Health Act is completed, you see? But now the level 4 is talking about all necessary, you see, revised or developed. So we want your quick comment so that we move. If you accept, then we go to level 3, we move forward.
Yeah, so I think if I've understood you well, you'd want to see the Public Health Act amended, Animal Disease Act amended, and the public health safety laws into place. Well, of course, for me, as in my experience, those are the 3 main ones. The rest are really secondary as far as I'm concerned, but the 3 main ones are those.
You are right. Even if you say what you found were applicable, but it is real. But also even Public Health Act, food safety,
Yes.
and animal.
Yes.
But you're also in the process. So you haven't revised it. You are in the process to revise it. The process hasn't been concluded.
Yes.
That is our argument.
Okay.
So it means to allow you to conclude the process, you cannot now go to level 4.
Okay.
Because the process hasn't been concluded.
All right.
You get it?
I get it. So I think before you throw it back, do we have any? Can we ask any questions?
DJ, if you allow us to, because, and I think we've spent slightly over 1 hour
Yes, I think
on this.
Let's move.
So maybe if, and I was just going to give it about 5 minutes, we must conclude this and also conclude the next indicator. If not, then we shall request that the team goes into plenary, side meeting on their own to agree on the finer details so as to save on time.
Yes.
Respectfully, sir.
Because I've identified 3 legal regimes. If he's going to comment on the animal health law and human health and food safety, then he can comment. But if it's outside that, then I don't know.
Okay, so can we move? Are we in agreement that we are in level 3? Because level 4, we are now working for level 4.
So I think based on your explanation, we should have completed all of them to move to level 4. So I think best subject to your explanation, I think I would.
Thank you.
Subject to explanation.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for that? Yes, can we go to gender? Secretariat, please, can you move us to gender? Yeah, so for gender, the first one is the systematic assessment, which you have done. The second one, systematic assessment of gender gaps, has been conducted in at least one IHR capacity. You have done a number of them. And then level 3 is talking about an action plan to address identified high priority gender gaps in at least. Is there any concern? Okay, thank you. In at least one IHR capacity is developed and incorporated in the annual work plan. That has been done, because if you read your report, you have incorporated within One Health strategic plan, but also the health security plan. But now for level 4, you are talking about the developed action plan to address at least one IHR capacity is funded and being implemented with mechanism in place for monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. So our issue was on the funding component and implementation, which I think was it Madam Angela? I think that's where you had issues, that the funding and the implementation, you expect to do it in the next upcoming National Action Plan for Health Security. Is that right?
That is right as far as the NAP is concerned. But in terms of other plans, for instance, we have a gender-based prevention and response plan that is funded, and also we have the one to do with community mobilization that is also funded. What we said was not funded was the recommendations made by the consultant, Catherine.
Okay, so that explanation that moves us from level 4 to level 3 again. Because the systematic gender assessment, that is what you did under Catherine, and then they observed what you needed to implement, and then you are supposed to include them in your plan, mobilize resources, and implement. So that's level 4 talks about that you have done that. So it means if you put yourself under level 4, it means you will deny your opportunity to implement those recommendations. So I think you belong as well on level 3. I don't know. What's your comment?
Thank you very much. That points us to the need for us to implement what was raised in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for them? So wait. Okay, so for the priority actions, we will sit together and shape the priority actions as required. So we thank you very much.
Friends, I think it usually starts this way. The first technical area, we spend a lot of time on it. And the reasons are this. We are still there. We do not want to seem too uptight on anyone. And we want to encourage free flow of information and communication. But we are going to be a bit more tight on time. We really want to applaud our colleagues from the country on how they've made it very easy for us, very knowledgeable. All the information is there, but we have had to reason in a very easy way without stretching each other. It's too early in the week, and so thank you so much. I hand back to DG to provide us guidance.
The moderator, Makumbi, I thank you very much, our land friends. But what I've learned is that this external team is also, I think, land, because there are some words which we didn't see, but they are seeing them. Like we had not implemented, but we are already implementing. So they are really, I think time is not on our side. May I request everybody to go and pick a cup of tea and an escort and come back, and we just have a working tea. If we don't take the tea, the hotel will be annoyed with us because it's almost ready. So can we please go and pick and come? Only 10 minutes, please. Go, pick and come, and we work. But you can go back as you wish. But now let's first pick the first tea, and then I hope the next group is ready. Solomon, the next group, please give them heads up so that they come on let them take tea first if they can. Let them take their tea first. They should be in front of the line. And then they come and we start. Please, let's go now and pick. Once we start, you will not be allowed to go and pick tea. Once we start, we shall not allow you to pick tea unless you are going for second or third round. That one is allowed. But for the first time, you must pick now.
In that gender thing, they want us to have responded in at least one.
They said all.
Number 4.
Never Gambia all. Go and look at it because there's a side meeting.
What's prophetic?
Manji? Obatugira tubalindako banajja mbakube tuyinza okuteekawo omulala bw'oba nedda wamma bajja nedda bajja tetumanyi kitali tebamuyinza mukubira kasimu.
Uganda is a fairy tale. You climb up, and at the end, it is a wonderful new world.
Tujja kwogera n'okujjako ndaba audience tewabulibwa olowooza oba lwaki bakyatidde. Naye nedda
The scenery is different. The vegetation is different. The climate is different. And most of all, the people are different from anything elsewhere to be seen in the whole range of Africa.
I have a mobile phone which was left at the tea area. Please come and collect it. I have a mobile phone. How about it? Somebody left a phone. I have it, please. If it's yours, come and pick it.
I say, concentrate on Uganda. For magnificence, for variety of form and color, for profusion of brilliant life, bird, insect, reptile, beast, and for vast scale. Uganda is truly the pearl of Africa.
We are going to have a inside meeting, isn't it? We're going to have a inside meeting.
Uganda is a fairy tale. You climb up, and at the end, there is a wonderful new world. The scenery is different. The vegetation is different. Climate is different. And most of all, the people are different from anything elsewhere to be seen in the whole range of Africa.
I have a phone. I have a phone, a mobile phone with me. It was left at the tea area.
I say, concentrate on Uganda. For magnificence, for variety of form and color, for profusion of brilliant life, bird, insect, reptile, beast, and for vast scale. Uganda is truly the pearl of Africa.
I have a phone, a mobile phone, Samsung. Samsung, it has a password I can't enter. Please, if you own it, come and collect it. It is not networking. I can see people networking. Please pick and come and sit. This is not the time for networking. I'll give you special time for networking. Please come and sit.
Climate is different. And most of all,
this is not the time for networking. Please come and sit. Pick and sit. Pick and sit. Pick and sit.
I say, concentrate on Uganda. For magnificence, for variety of form and color, for profusion of brilliant life, bird, insect, reptile, beast, and for vast scale.
Please, this is not time for networking. If I send the security man for EOC, you'll be in trouble. The security officer from EOC is around. If I tell him to come, he'll demobilize you and mobilize you. First demobilize you and then you lift you up to your seat. Kindly please come and sit. We should have covered 3 or 4 technical areas by now. And then tomorrow there is also official opening. So really we need time. We need to work hard today.
You climb up. At the end, there is a wonderful new world.
Milton, can you mobilize those people not to network there? Let them come and sit. Or but they want to be near so that they can collect.
The scenery is different. The vegetation is different. Climate is different. And the people are different from anything elsewhere to be seen in the whole range of Africa. I say, concentrate on Uganda. For magnificence, for variety of form and color, for profusion of brilliant life, bird, insect, reptile, beast, and for vast scale. Uganda is truly the pearl of Africa.
Dr. Shikanga, the legal group would like to have a side meeting anytime you feel appropriate. There are some things they want to iron out later on, if time allows. But now I think let's have the next group. Come and introduce this group, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makumbi. I'm just assisting. Next is the financing group, which will be led by Dr. Agre Ngobi, a health expert at Office of the Prime Minister, and he will be supported by Dr. Herbert Bachika, a senior technical advisor on health security with the NAPS acceleration team. Dr. Ngobi, you're welcome.
And just before he starts, it's also our responsibility. Every time you introduce, we also introduce the team here. And so for financing, it's going to be led by Kelvin and supported by Tabitha. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, team. Dr. Ngobi Agre has already introduced. With my colleague, Dr. Herbert, we are coming before you in peace to present something on the finance technical area with mutual trust, mutual respect, high objectivity, and the facts we are going to give are backed by the documents that were shared with you in a file. Yeah, it is not moving. Okay. Those are just the abbreviations we are bound to find in our document. And as an overview, we are looking at the finance technical area, as I've told you, and the government of Uganda operates an annual budget, and resources are mobilized and realized from both the domestic and external funding. And the key stakeholders in resource mobilization and realization is the Uganda Revenue Authority, which is key in mobilizing resources to meet the 30% domestic contribution towards HR, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development that support the budget implementation process, the Office of the Prime Minister that coordinates resource mobilization amongst the ministries, departments and agencies, including the private sector, and the National Planning Authority that develops comprehensive plans that guide us in all these activities. The funding mechanism in the country is that there is always a planning cycle that runs annually that allows MDAs to develop their operational plans and budgets. And eventually, on a quarterly basis, government releases funds to support these budgets. And the budget addresses prevention activities, it addresses detection activities and response activities, especially in the public health issues. But where the provision of the annual budget cannot meet the demand of, say, an emergency has come up, the Public Financing and Management Act 2015 as amended comes into play, where we come to touch on the contingency fund, and we get at least 3.5 of the annual budget to support the activities. So let us look at where our strength lies. One of our strengths is that the country has a clear, structured, and planning budget cycle. This enables MDAs and the relevant entities like National Planning Authority and Ministry of Finance to identify key priority areas where we want to allocate resources. Another strength is that there is existence of short and long-term action plans that are aligned to our health activities. And this one helps us in building the capacities to respond to IHR issues. And some of the entities that are mainly concerned in those is the National Development Plan 3 we are having, the health sector development plans, the National Action Plan for Health Securities, the disaster preparedness and management plans. All those ones are in place and they really help us in addressing HR activities. There is a policy that binds the partners, the private partners, to work with the government in addressing some of these issues. And that policy at least calls on private entities such that we come and work together to address the prevailing issue in the country at that time. There is committed development and implementation of the partner support, the support. The moment such an event comes, all partners work with us and we really respond appropriately. Let us look at the best practices we have. We have already told you that there is an annual planning cycle, and this enables us to identify our gaps and plan appropriately. During the course of the year, there is mid-term performance reviews that are conducted to see how the budgets are running and where resources are mostly wanted, and where need be, we even reallocate to address the issue at hand. There is also the annual performance review by the government that brings all entities together, and we address their performances. We look at the bottlenecks they are facing and even come up with how best can we address that bottleneck such that we implement the issues that are at hand. The areas we need to strengthen is that all entities at least need to advocate for financing and have a flexibility to allow for implementation. There is also contingency planning, as I've said, but right now it is anchored into Ministry of Finance, and now we are saying that we need to strengthen the fact that at least each MDA has that bit of it. The planning, budgeting, and financing for HR focal point persons is also wanting such that we strengthen them for effective functionality. The challenges we are having is that there is limited mainstreaming in financing for HR implementation. As I've said, some of the MDAs have not really mainstreamed this. So for that category, we are putting ourselves at level 3. I cannot comprehend it here right properly, but I think you can get it from there. We are at level 3. I can't pick the words here. I think I'm aging. My eyes cannot get those wording properly. What are the priority action points we want to address on this? Is that all MDAs advocate for financing for EHR implementation as a routine and during public health emergencies. 2, we need to build the capacity of HR focal point persons on their roles and functionality such that we have an effective system. The next indicator under financing is looking for resources for public health emergencies. And our strength here is that we have the existence of the contingency fund. That one is there, that can be called up on time. and at least 3.5% of the annual budget is there readily available. There is existence of mechanism to access resources. Once there is an emergency, there is the National Task Force, there is the Office of the Prime Minister to coordinate all entities and private sector so that we get the resources. The existence of National Task Force, I already read about that. The excellent working relationship with development partners. We have very good excellent working relationship with private entities, with the implementing partners, and that one generally helps us. We conduct an accountability forum. That is like the barazas, that really provides a platform of how we've used the funds, and this one generally brings transparency, and I think that gives the donors the courage to fund more in case there is need. And under this, we are looking at the best practice as how to utilize the funds, is that we have a 4W matrix that helps us to look at which partner is funding what, when, and where. Those are the 4Ws. So we really employ this and allocate our resources appropriately to avoid duplication. There are subnational platforms, structures that link the national task force to support the management of public health emergencies. We have the district task forces. All those ones help us, and they are really functional and they help us to address such challenges. The government of Uganda regularly conducts risk and needs assessment to support and deploy resources. You find that in this recent emergence of the COVID and Ebola, we were short of health workers, but again, we had to deploy uniformed soldiers or uniformed forces at points of entry. When we ran sort of funds, we had to relocate from the road fund to address this challenge. So at least that is a best practice. Under this, of course, I've talked about the strength with the government, the way the government is dealing with the partners, the private partners, to address some of these issues, especially in cases where there are public health emergencies. And also, the private sector is actively engaging and ready to expand service provision. Where do we need to strengthen? Is that although there is a policy that is involving the private sector, it is not giving them clear mandate to come into play unless called upon by Office of the Prime Minister or government. So this one we need to strengthen such that they are mandated, whether called upon or not, in their plans, they should be able to address such emergencies. The challenge we are having is that private sector does not contribute to management of public health emergencies as part of their plans, but unless called upon by government. And this one needs to be streamlined. There is minimal rapid response funds among MDAs to address public health emergencies. As I've told you that we need to streamline this, such that at least each entity has a vote to address this. But now it is minimal, and whenever there is a public health emergency, the first thing again other MDAs run to is Ministry of Health. But we want now to ensure that this one is included in all budgets of the MDAs. And as such, we are getting delays in response towards the emergencies by individual entities, MDAs. As I've said even before, with this indicator, we are at level 2. Still, we can read that. I cannot comprehend it here and write. There is a lot of light, but we are at level 2. What are our priority action areas? Is that MDAs to advocate for Public Health Emergency Response Fund at all levels. Thank you, I'm about to finish. Ministry of Health Leadership and Governance Directorate needs to review and expand the scope of the NAPS towards financing. And Ministry of Health Planning Department to review the compact. The compact is like a document that binds the private entities to the government, such that they are clearly mandated on how to address public health emergencies. Those are the documents I've talked about that are your reference. The Public Finance Management Act as amended in 2015. The program budgeting system that does really exist to monitor the budgets. The Budget and Accountability Monitoring Unit. This one is housed under Ministry of Finance. The National Development Plan 3. The Program Implementation Action Plan. The National Action Plan for Health Security, the NAPS, which is developed annually. The National Policy on Public-Private Partnership. The interministerial statements that ensures that government follows up what is really planned for and how implementation is done. And finally, the Auditor General's report that really follows up and gives us a report of how we budgeted and how our budgets have, plans and budgets have really performed during the financial year. Although this one is contravening with the 10 commandments of comparisons, but the slide is there at least to show that we are trying to progress. These are the partners we work together to assemble these documents from all MDAs in the government. I thank you so much, and I welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much for the presentation. So as introduced, I'm Dr. Kevin Makadzange. I work as a program management officer for WHO in South Africa, and I also cover Eswatini. So thank you very much for the detailed presentation. I think it has highlighted the picture. And what I've noted and liked is the issue of a clear planning cycle where we have got plans that are actually costed, and then with budgets, and then the issue is actually financing those budgets, which might be the issue there. But you highlighted all the plans that are available, and also you even highlighted the issue of the contingence fund, which is a good thing, and also the issue of partners that are available and the good working relationship with partners that can actually support, including the private sector, though you mentioned that there's a bit of limited involvement of the private sector, which is expected, but it's something that can be worked on. Then I also liked the issue of the 4W matrix, which is something that is very, very important when you're actually mapping what is happening. Then there's a thing that you mentioned, which is the issue of other sectors, the issue of mainstreaming support for IHR with the other sectors, which is not really happening very well in line with the One Health. But otherwise, thank you very much. And I'm not sure if my colleague wants to add anything before we quickly move on to the scoring.
Thank you. I think one additional that is commendable to Uganda is making it, the public-private partnership. Governments are limited in resources, and we do have a lot of resources with the private sector. So bringing private sector on board is a very, very good move by the country. Congratulations.
Okay, so thank you very much. Then I'm not sure, Tim, if you need to add anything before we quickly move on to the scoring. Because here we have got only 2 indicators, and I think we'll quickly agree to agree, and then we'll move on. The quicker we agree to agree, the better for all of us. Thank you very much. So maybe let's project the first indicator. The first indicator, the scoring is level 3. which according to the to level 3 says financial planning is based on estimated resource needs and a budgetary allocation and all substantial external funding made for relevant ministries and sectors. So I think what we need to note there is ministries and sectors relevant is available to support IHR implementation at the national level. So it's also another thing that we need to note. But there is limited monitoring and accountability mechanism in place. That's level 3. Of which, when we were looking at it as subject matter experts with my colleague, we thought we need to interrogate this level 3 and make sure that all the things are actually in place. Otherwise, we might have to go down to level 2 because level 4 is a bit above the requirements that are actually in level 3. So our starting point is to interrogate the level 3 and see if we are all satisfied, then we adopt it. If we feel that there's something that is missing, of which the 3 things that we need to work on is the issue of, or is it all? No, it's not all, but it's just relevant ministries and sectors, and then happening at national level, and the accountability mechanism not in place. What is it? Limited, yes. Would you need to add anything to?
Chair, just to submit as we have responses from the members in-house. During the discussions, the reason why we gave it a score of level 3 was that currently as we speak, all sectors get support from government, both to support the human resource as well as the equipping. So there's some capacity equipping in terms of computers, the office space, and of course, even the human resource support in terms of remuneration. So we realize that as a country, at least we have achieved. So we cannot say that we do not have funding for IHR. And besides that, you realize that IHR is integrated within the different sectors. We don't have a separate arrangement as IHR. I'll give an example like Ministry of Health, where we have got the National IHR focal point, where we have got officers like the commissioners, as well as the surveillance officers and epidemiologists. There's those that are supported by government and they are well equipped. So that's the reason why we gave it a score of 3. And the reason why we felt some sectors may be lagging in terms of IHR, when you move to Ministry of Agriculture, there's still some capacity. And then when you move to other sectors, there's still some gaps. But ideally, IHR is integrated within the mainstream arrangement of government support. That's why you still give it a level of 3, though it's very, apart from our routine IHR monitoring arrangement, you realize that we still have some gaps in terms of how the other sectors are actually investing in IHR. That's why you see we are talking about limited monitoring and accountability mechanisms in other sectors. But whereas there's some key sectors that are implementing IHR where you have got a clear accountability of the capacities they are supporting IHR.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. Let me just read level 2. Level 2 says financial planning is limited with a national level budgetary allocation or substantial external financing made for some of the relevant ministries and sectors and their respective ministry to support IHR implementation at the national level. Is that the picture? Can we say that's what really describes where we are?
Chair, I wouldn't really say that the financial planning is limited, although indicative figures are given, but entities are free to plan. And in essence, where resources are wanted still from external forces, we can easily call for a supplementary. So financial planning for this is not as such limited, Chair.
You want to say something? Okay. So I don't see any reactions in the floor. So we were discussing also, the two of us, and we were thinking that I think 3 is fine for describing the situation, though there will be some improvements that will need to be done so that we move to 4. So I don't know, Flo, if you have any objections. If there are no objections, we move on to the other indicator.
Chair, just to also submit on that, is that the reality is that all sectors usually plan and they budget. And around June, July, these budgets are actually approved by government. So we don't have any kind of limited financial planning. So that's why you see we really concur with you at level 3, because this sector submits a clear estimated budget on how they are going to implement the multiple activities in their sector. So that's something that we felt, at least we have the strength in different sectors to put in requests.
Okay. Good. Okay, so thank you very much. I think we quickly agree to agree. Then we move on to the second indicator, which is focusing on now resources financing for emergency response. This one was financing for IHR implementation, implementing our NAPs and other, developing the core capacities. Then this one is for emergency response, which is actually scored at level 2. And level 2 says an emergency public financial resource mechanism exists. I think we talked about the contingent funding and some systems that are in place in terms of mobilizing funds and distributing funds, or is pre-specified that can receive, distribute, and use of funds for responding to public health emergencies. But activation and disbursement modalities are cumbersome and untimely. That's level 2. Level 1 says financial resources for responding to public health emergencies is not planned and identified. Funds are allocated and distributed in an ad hoc manner during a public health emergency, of which from the presentation, I think we are well above that. So 1 is out. Now there is 2. Then the other possibility is to go to 3. Let's see 3. An emergency public financial resource mechanism for responding to public health emergencies is identified, specified for immediate mobilization when needed at the national and intermediate levels at all the relevant sectors in advance of a public health emergency, and procedures enable rapid activation and disbursement. Yeah, that one is a bit heavy. So, looking at the indicators and the scoring, which is level 2, do we have any comments from the floor? Because us as experts, we have agreed and they have agreed. And do we also agree with level 2? Or do you have any questions or any request for clarifications? Because the level 2, yes, the mechanism is there, the contingent fund is there, and there's a system of actually distributing the funds. But then the issue of cumbersome, because I thought that at times there's delays which will result in delayed response, which is something that normally happens in systems like this, which as experts, we agree with level 2, but we need to agree as a house, because this is JEE being done by all of us in here and not by the experts and also the team that is in charge of the technical area. Any other comments from anyone else?
Chair, let me request through you Commissioner Dr. Alan to speak to this, since he supports that is in charge of that department for public health emergencies.
Thank you very much, the experts and the team. I want to believe that level 2 is the most appropriate one, the status in the country, given that they laid down procedures for accessing the contingency fund, which is at Ministry of Finance, takes a while, and with the certain other conditions that you must fulfill before you can access it. So I think that process alone takes a while before you can access the funds. So I also agree with level 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the emphasis and the support. Dr. Shikanga, your hand up. Do you have a? Oh, okay. So I think we are done. In terms of the recommended or whatever, I think we'll talk separately so that we come up with the recommended actions to move up. But otherwise, thank you very much. I think this was easy. Thank you.
It wasn't easy, but just technically presented.
Yeah, thank you so much, Master of Ceremonies. So I think this is very good. This is encouraging, and we look forward to the next session. I know IHR coordination can be a bit, interesting for everyone, but with the same spirit, we should be able to surmount it. Just to mention that, again, for the country technical groups, for each one of the 19 technical areas, you are expected to develop 3 to 5 priority actions, not by indicator, but by technical area. So like for legal, you will have to relook at all of them and just develop 3 to 5 priority actions by technical area. Then my colleague for legal, we have received a summons from the legal team. And so you better start putting your legal team together, because please organize for a meeting between ourselves and themselves so that we can see what's going to come up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, team leader. There is one thing, the indicator number 2 on finance, where we scored a 3, which all of us agreed. It says that the accountability system is not there, but if it can be recorded that we have a very robust accountability forum. In fact, we even add on what we call accountability fora, where government and partners and private sit together and account to each other. Even government accounts to partners and other stakeholders. If that can be documented in that 3, so that is missing. It seems that if we don't account, but we do. So the next is IHR coordination, and Dr. Annie Nekisige, one of our IHR focal person. She's very consistent in SPA. She's always the first to submit to WHO. Dr. Nekisige.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Makumbi, for the introduction. Okay. You first.
Dr. Shikanga introduces the external.
I've been advised to wait for the chair.
So this is a traditional practice which we have to go through all the time. Plenary, may I unveil my colleagues who are going to preside over the next technical area. Thank you.
Okay. I can start? Okay, thank you. Thank you once again for the opportunity to make this presentation on behalf of Dr. Patrick Tusime, the National IHR Focal Person. Before I start, I'm requesting some of my team members who are around. Please, Dr. Mwebe, come forward so that we can jointly make the presentation. I'm Dr. Annie Nachinsige. I work with the Department of Integrated Epidemiology and Surveillance as a principal epidemiologist, and I've been requested this morning to present this on behalf of the National IHR Focal Person, Dr. Patrick Tusime. True, I am also part of the foreman's team that is registered with the World Health as the IHR Focal Persons. So, it's out of technology to adjust to. Yeah, thank you. So that is the summary of the abbreviation within our presentation. By way of background, effective implementation of IHR requires multi-sectoral collaboration as guided by the regulations themselves, and the coordination of national-wide resources, including the designation of the National IHR Focal Point, which is a national center for IHR implementation, is a key prerequisite for effective IHR implementation. In Uganda, the Ministry of Health, just in line with the national disaster policy, was delegated the function of managing public health emergencies, and therefore is also designated as the Secretariat for IHR regulations, and therefore we also host the National IHR Focal Point for the country. So we have a National IHR Focal Person who was nominated by the Director General of Health, but we have also gone ahead and designated IHR Focal Points in different ministries that have key mandates and responsibilities in implementing the IHR. The major role of the IHR Focal Person is to receive alerts. The IHR Focal Point, not person, which is a department in this case, is to receive alerts and reports from Public Health Emergency Center, but also we are strengthening our efforts in terms of collaboration from other sectors that are implementing IHR. A functional mechanism for inter-sectoral collaboration currently is being strengthened, existence being strengthened. So in terms of strengths and the best practices, we have three indicators. And the first indicator was IHR Focal Point functions. In terms of strengths, we have a national IHR, we have a national focal point structure within the Ministry of Health. The national focal point is anchored and integrated into the government structure by way of policy. And then various ministries, departments, and agencies have also nominated IHR focal points who help in implementation of IHR and also strengthening collaboration and coordination between the various sectors. The best practices is that the national focal point is housed in a government structure at a strategic level. There is, and the current national focal point person is at the level of a commissioner. he heads the department. The national focal point person is not an office, is an office, but not a person. And as I've mentioned earlier, we are a team of 4 people. Dr. Alan Muruta, Dr. Makumbi himself, and myself, but we are supported, or we support the entire surveillance. And my colleagues up there are also the IHR focal persons. Madam Betty Mbolanyi is from Ministry of Water and Environment, and Dr. Mwebe is from the Ministry responsible for animal health. So the national focal point officers are accessible by telephone and email at all times, and they are registered on the World Health website. And we work with a variety of sectors within the country to coordinate analysis of national and public health events. And then the focal points in the various ministries have also developed their terms of reference to clearly define what is their role. And we have embraced the idea of One Health approach. So in terms of areas that need strengthening, data management and sharing across sectors is still a challenge. It has not yet been smoothened out. And the MDAs also, in terms of planning, budgeting, and implementation of IHR, is still an area that needs improvement. Just as the Dr. Aguri highlighted, the issue of sector mainstreaming and taking it as a priority is still an area that needs more strengthening. In terms of challenges, I have a number of challenges. I have slides here and I have a smaller computer here. So I have to change there and change here. Sorry, I think I had forgotten. So let me change. So I think we are on the same slide. So as I've said, areas that need strengthening is data management and sharing across sectors, and then budget mainstreaming for IHR across the different ministries and departments. The areas that are still remaining a challenge, the first point is unclear data sharing mechanism between sectors, because mainly our sectors have clear mandates which are guided by our constitution, and therefore this concept of silo working is more or less still a challenge. How do you share information, and what kind of information, to what depth, are issues that we are still grappling with. The IHR concept has not been fully appreciated and institutionalized in some MDAs, and budgetary constraints to implement IHR programs still exist in terms of some MDAs. So the second indicator is the multi-sector coordination mechanisms, and our strength is the use of the whole of government approach, including the One Health approach in handling IHR and public health emergencies. The sectors have committed, and all the sectors we have written to have responded by officially giving us people to continuously work with. The other strength is active participation of various MDAs in IHR activities. Wherever there is something to do with the NAPS implementation, different sectors will always come on board and send delegates if the senior people are not available. Then we have the OPM, who still plays a very key role in coordinating the different MDAs. In terms of best practices, mechanisms for intersectoral collaboration exists. Then we have the collaboration across MDAs and the coordination of relevant MDAs on events that constitute a threat to public health and animal health. So areas that need strengthening is the issue of the overarching mandate of IHR, and the challenge is that different reporting channels and mandate hinder deep collaboration between sectors. I think I've already explained to that, the silo kind of mandates for each sector. And sectors at different levels of appreciation of the IHR concept. I think this is the last indicator. In terms of strength, we have the existence of a multi-hazard framework. The indicator is strategic planning for IHR, preparedness and health security. So the strength is that we have the existence of a multi-hazard framework whose rollout is supported by OPM and the Ministry of Health, and it outlines roles of the different stakeholders of the different sectors in IHR preparedness and health security. We have plans that we have been tested by real events. Uganda is rich in terms of emergencies, and we normally have opportunities for testing our documents using live real events, including the multi-hazard framework. The MDRs are supportive and embrace the activities of IHR, and then we have the use of hazard-specific seasonal calendars for preparedness. Majorly at the office of the Prime Minister, but also health and the strategic, the STAR report, strategic assessment for strategic assessment for risk. We are also piloting the concept of seasonal planning. And then in terms of best practices, the multi-hazard plan is aligned to IHR regulations. Lessons learned are conducted and incorporated into future planning. And then collaboration is also strong across MDAs. So I think the next area will be the areas that need strengthening under that indicator. We need to improve accessibility to emergency funding. And I think this one was already explained by the group that has already presented funding, and we have seen how it has affected, how we have narrowly missed 3 because of the way and the procedures for quick accessibility to funding. And that still remains a challenge that we need to find a way of addressing quick access to fund and be able to overcome the bureaucratic processes. So I think the next slide is about the score for the 3 indicators. For the first indicator, the national IHR focal point, we scored ourselves a 3. And if I'm to read here, that level is the national IHR focal person is a designated center and has a clear legal and government mandate with terms of reference describing the roles and responsibilities. Is sufficiently organized, resourced, and available at all times to communicate with World Health. But intersectoral collaboration and communication is inadequate to consolidate surveillance information to obtain clearance from decision makers in other sectors, in other domestic sectors. And I think I clearly brought that as a challenge. Much as the coordination is there, but data sharing still remains. We are yet to identify how deep, what is the scope and how frequent, and what are the formal mechanisms we have in place for that. The second indicator, yes. The second indicator was multi-sector coordination mechanisms. And for that indicator, we scored a 4. And if I'm to read the meaning of a 4 is that we say the multi-sector coordination mechanisms for IHR implementation are in place, disseminated, and are being implemented at a national and intermediate level. Yes. Then the last indicator, the last indicator was strategic planning for IHR preparedness and health security. We scored a 3. And if I'm to read what a 3 means is that we said we have a national plan for IHR preparedness or health security is developed and is being implemented, but there is no routine monitoring or updating of activities. Decision makers in government or legislative bodies at national level are sensitized to IHR security on an ad hoc basis. And I think it is that last bit that made us fail to jump to level 4. We took the National Action Plan as our preparedness tool, and we have made efforts to routinely monitor it through the monitoring. Thank you. Let me summarize. Through the monitoring approach of OPM, monitoring all sectors. We have also have activities under IHR coordination for advocacy for IHR and bringing on board strategic managers. But many of our activities for IHR advocacy have been opportunity-based. Wherever we get an opportunity, we have not systematically done it. So that's the reason why we stopped at that level, because I think the next level calls for systematic engagement which we didn't have as yet. So generally, priority areas for action would be that we need to have the MDAs to plan, advocate for them to plan, budget and implement IHR, and we need to continue training the IHR focal persons so that they can be able to play a good role in terms of advocacy within their ministries, because they are currently the ambassadors of IHR implementation. Then we need to advocate for and orient policymakers at strategic level on the concept of IHR for their buy-in. Lastly but not least, we need to create mechanisms for mechanisms for formal regular sharing of information, relevant data and information across the sectors for implementation of IHR. I think this is the last. Those are the documents which must be in your custody. And these are the members who actively participated. OPM members, I think many of them are not here. I don't know why. But the rest of us who are from those two ministries are here. Thank you very much. I think this is the end.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam, for the excellent presentation, and also the presentation is according to the because the priority action is for the capacity for the technical areas, not for each and the specific indicator. So thank you very much. As it has been said, IHR and coordination is very, very important and the critical capacity toward ensuring the national and the global health security, as we all know. And you have done quite very important and steps in this regard, and particularly when it comes to the coordination, the multi-sectoral coordination at the Office of Prime Minister, and also the Minister of Health is and noted. The second one is national focal point and the function that includes the notification of potential public health emergency of international concern, verification, dissemination, and also synthesis and analysis, and the reporting capacities will be included for obvious reason in this capacity. And the last indicator is with regard to strategy planning for IHR and also the health security capacity and the planning. So advocacy, planning, and implementation, and the monitoring and evaluation of the National Action Plan for Health Securities, and always directly or indirectly addressed under this capacity. So it's very, very important capacity. You have just done a very important step in this regard, and the three indicator. So this is my point, and if you want to say, my colleague, anything on this regard. So and then if you are fine, let me just ask and very important questions, and particularly under each indicator. The first one is and IHR function. You have mentioned the legal mandate. The legal mandate is very, very important. Is there a legal mandate and a government mandate, and or a guide and guidelines and the TORs for the IHR function for the IHR functions, and that has been already indicated under the indicator number one. That's one question. Multi-sectoral coordination is also a difficult task, and do you have a sustainable multi-sectoral coordination platforms, and at national level and also intermediate level is and very critical. I'm not saying the ad hoc coordination, and but I'm saying this is a capacity, a sustainable, and a coordination platform for the IHR implementation at all level, national, intermediate, and also local level. And also advocacy and the decision makers, then buy-in is very, very important for IHR implementation. In this regard, the capacity for decision maker has been sensitized, so engaged. How's the engagement of the leadership at all levels, the engagement of the leadership And I think we need to support this all with in the evidences. And later on I'll come with the priority action and also decision maker sensitization. And thank you very much. This is a few of my comments and for response, and then we'll proceed to the indicators. And so you want to react?
I feel like telling one of my team members, Dr. Makombe, to respond. I don't know whether he took note, but I will make an effort. I think the first question was that a question, a comment, legal mandate? What I picked as a question was the various smart sector coordination platforms appearing, existing at various levels. Yes? Okay. So in terms of mandates, I suspect the legal team should be here to back me up. But what I'm sure of, during the review of our public health, we tried to demonstrate IHR, and the office of the national IHR focal person was also demonstrated in there. There is a clause. I don't know whether Martha is here. Maybe I think she would give more legal terminologies. But that is what I can respond for now. And then, as I've said before, the national focal point falls within a government system and a government structure, which is legally respectable and legally functioning. So in terms of multi-sectoral coordination platforms happening at different levels or existing at different levels, at national level, we begin with the presentation of Dr. Makumbi. You remember he said that we have the OPM, the Office of the Prime Minister, and when it comes to disasters, the emergency plan spans right from the president to the village level. We also have a national task force aligned to that. Actually, the current national task force, we would say, is under the office, is under the Minister of Health, but it's a delegated function. Can still, actually, it should be under the office of the president himself and under the office of the Prime Minister. But should I use the word low grade? Lower level, lower level public health emergencies, it is housed under the Minister of Health. So at national level, we have the multi-sector approach of Office of the Prime Minister and the National Task Force, which is currently, or which normally is housed at the Minister of Health. It's a platform for different sectors who are called upon depending on the level of the hazard. At district level, we have the district management, the disaster management task force, which is also a multi-sectoral approach, depending on the nature of the hazard. If it's a natural hazard, we shall see more sectors or more departments that are dealing with the natural hazards. If it's an infectious hazard, we shall see more of the departments that are dealing with natural hazard, including other departments for social mobilization and community engagement. I think that is what I can comment. The office of the cow, the districts are headed by the cow, and the cow is the one who supervises all departments. So in itself being a STEM kind of management, it also enhances coordination at that level. In terms of advocacy, how is the engagement for IHR? I think I try to summarize this, that we had an action for IHR advocacy under NAPS. But in terms of implementation, we used the various opportunities that existed. We used, when we were launching the NAP, there was a lot of sensitization and awareness, and we met many strategic leaders in the different MDAs for creating awareness. During the COVID, we also did a lot of sensitization to the various leaders. There were many cabinet papers. Our minister used to make cabinet papers, parliamentarian information papers, and those were all opportunities for bringing the different actors on board. In terms of community mobilization, we also try to pilot civil society during the COVID response to try and sensitize the community and encourage them to participate in community in COVID vaccination. I think that's what I can say for now. I don't know. Yes, my colleagues. Okay. Bet wants to add something, but I'm also calling Dr. Muluta and Dr. Makumbi. If there's anything you want to add, this is an area for IHR and you are part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. I want to really supplement on the sustainable multi-sectoral platforms at sub-national and national level. I would say yes. Uganda is using the National One Health platform at national level to ensure that IHR is implemented, as well as at sub-national levels, we've trained and established District One health teams. Those mirror activities done at national level. And on IHR advocacy still, using the National One Health platform, we've trained civil society organizations. Those ensure that they implement activities at subnational level, and they hope to really make sure that IHR activities are pushed to the grassroots levels because they deal with the communities. Thank you.
Maybe a small question. Thank you very much for your responses and presentation. Mine was on the IHR accessibility. That we understand that under Article 4, I think, of IHR 2005 talks about the availability, the accessibility of 24 hours, 7 days of the week. So I want to learn from you if you have like a duty roster and how do you operate that to ensure that you are accessible 24/7. That is one. Thank you.
Or 24 hours per week.
So what I would say that in terms of availability to World Health, we have Dr. Patrick is the information both in email and telephone is available on the website, and he's the person who does external communication. The rest of us work, make the necessary documents, and we give to him to do the final emailing. But in terms of accessible to the community, we also have other approaches through which the community can send any alerts or events, which is through the EOC, through the different approaches we have created. Otherwise, we don't have a duty roster. For us, we work technically, but in terms of external communication, it's one person.
Sorry, we are saying accessibility of the IHR national focal point, not One Health, for global reporting and also for any surveillance and the event is for these events within the country. So that is one of the very important and the function of the IHR national focal point. Any comment?
Let me supplement you. As you have said correctly, I think we are in line about 5 people who are accessible. If the principal is not there, then the next one online. If that was not there, the next one online. We don't have a roster that today or this month you are the one, because if we did that, there are so many other competing responsibilities. But anybody among the 5, which Dr. Nanchinsiga has said, are available, and you cannot miss all those. You cannot meet all those 5 people in the focal point. So the focal point is available 24/7. If you want 25 hours a day. Thank you.
And we have the EOC, which receives information 24 hours, 7 days through the various approaches that we have also reported from the public. So I don't know whether I'm understanding the question, but that is what is on the ground.
Is there a duty officer? We know that they are available. Anyhow, we want to make sure that whether they are in office, just responding to the public health emergency of international concern. That's the issue. With the interest of time, let's proceed to the indicators.
In an earlier slide, that there is lack of appreciation and appreciation by the other sectors, the non-health sectors of IHR. In a later slide, you said the MDS support and embrace IHR. In a sense, those two statements may seem to be in conflict with each other. So if you may just shed a bit of light, how do these other MDS that are not appreciating and fully embracing IHR, then later on they embrace IHR? If you could just clarify that so that we don't cause confusion in the report that we're going to write.
Okay, I think I will give something small, then I'll request my colleague Betty maybe to throw more light. What we meant by embracing, we measured it on two fronts. One was the mere fact that when we requested them to submit names, they officially gave us the feedback. Secondly, also when it comes to implementation of IHR and the monitoring, all of them have made efforts to try and implement activities that under their jurisdiction. Also, when we have opportunities for IHR, like even when, as we are here, you will notice that different sectors are here represented. They will be positive. But now when you talk of lack of appreciation, it goes beyond just the presence and the action, but deep when it comes to budgeting, prioritization. I think that is where we picked that kind of statement that looks like a controversy. The case study, I think Madam Betty can throw more light on what exactly it means by some leaders not appreciating. So it's about resources, resource allocation, and seeing it as an area that belongs to them, not necessarily as an area for health. That's where the other lack of appreciation comes in. Thank you. Betty, you want to add something small?
I think, Dr. Anne, you've really brought the point clearly, but I will add a little bit. When we are considering the issues of mandates, and we see that IHR is fully anchored into the Ministry of Health, and when you bring on board other sectors with clear mandates as well, you find that if you try to really budget or try to really create a budget to implement IHR activities, it brings some little bit of conflict by saying that, oh, we have already enough on our plate. Are we helping somehow? So that one brings in the low appreciation. But like Anne said, it goes, that appreciation goes into more of the resources to be allocated by other MDAs, given the mandates, the clear mandates which other sectors are supposed to do. Thank you.
Said when they are budgeting, they don't maybe mainstream some of these IHR, but they appreciate because they give us focal points. Maybe, as you said, we need to train more these focal points in every sector so that during their planning and budgeting, they mainstream these activities, but they appreciate. So let's just drop the word appreciation. Maybe lack of mainstreaming the resources. Chair, does that now remove the conflict or the controversy between appreciation and not appreciating?
Thank you for the clarification. So, with the interest of time, let us proceed to the indicators. I think the first indicator is the national focal point functions. So the level that you have chosen is, the score is in the 3. So it says, let me read. The national HR focal point is a designated center and has a clear legal and the government mandate. And underline this one with terms of reference describing the role and the responsibilities, is sufficiently organized, resourced, and available at all times to communicate with WHO. But intersectoral collaboration and the communication is inadequate to consolidate surveillance information or to obtain clearance from decision makers in other domestic sectors. So my question goes with, is there a clear, it says legal and a government mandate? And also terms of reference for HR national focal point function. Is there terms of reference also for HR national focal point? And also the legal mandate? Who will reflect on this one? Legal mandate, government mandate.
I know we have the terms of reference for the national focal point. And when we talk about the legal mandates, as government, whatever international law which is domesticated nationally is supposed to be implemented within the government confers. That's where we draw the legal mandate.
Have you put this into the national and regulations, the HR implementation? The HR implementation into your regulation. And I've seen the TOR. The TOR is a draft one. And so it is on draft. We cannot say, and you have a system for the HR national focal point function. You have a TOR because it is a draft. I have seen it already.
So another small comment, when you were presenting on indicator number 1, that is P3.1 on challenges, actually you indicated clearly that you have budgetary constraint to implement IHR programs in some ministries, departments, and whatever. So when you look at this indicator, where you are trying to propose level 3, it is talking about whether you are sufficiently organized and sufficiently resourced. So maybe your comment, while you have indicated the issues of budget and other things, and now if you have issues with resources, which is the requirement for indicator 3, then it becomes a challenge now for you to propose for that. Maybe any comment on that?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are here for learning and maybe picking best practice. The way might be appreciating some things may not be the way maybe the external team appreciates them. But for us, what we take as a legal mandate is that we have a department that is within the government structure that serves as a focal point, collects information on alert and outbreak, is the one which is custodian of IHR. We have a national IHR. We have been officially delegated this function by the policy of the Office of the Prime Minister to be in charge of public health emergencies. We are a signatory as a country to the IHR. We have a commissioner who is in charge of, who is the national focal point. He's fully registered with World Health. We have previously made communications and received communications. The terms of reference that are in draft were to help coordination of the focal point across sectors, but not necessarily. And I've said that the external communications are still held by one person, the official, let me call him the team leader for that. The rest of us work under him. And when it comes to communication, he's the person who does the communication. So I think for us with that, we felt that it was a situation of legality. And I've said that even his position has been domesticated into the current Public Health Emergency, rather Act. I wanted the lawyers to help me give the details of which article where it is, but I think after their presentation, they went for a drink. So I don't know what exactly. Are they? They are there? They are quiet. I've been requesting
with
them
the
to.
interest of time, can we discuss this one inside?
So I think we need to
inside
pick what
meeting?
exactly the indicator required us to do so that we can pick lessons for the
Let's
future.
put it inside meeting, this one. Yeah. Do you agree? Oh. They have already indicated level 3, and the issue of sufficiently organized, resources, and also legal mandate. We all know that the IHA national focal point is already assigned. And when you say the legal mandate, it's sometimes different from this. And whether the Minister of Health is just have a legal mandate for the implementation of IHR. Implementation of IHR is, as we all know, multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary. So to coordinate all other sectors, a kind of legal mandate for IHR implementation is very, very important to put in the legal instrument. So I think we need to discuss this one. And now,
so we go to the
okay,
next
one.
Yeah. Maybe we could proceed with a discussion on the legal mandate with possible quotation from the legal provision for the existence of IHR focal points. What I wanted to emphasize is what you alluded to as draft TORs, and she did mention about the coordination of other sectors, but I want to put it to you that the actual TORs for the focal points are drawn from the World Health Organization. So countries don't need to domesticate anything and have approvals. We just implement. Thank you.
My colleague, the way forward.
Maybe I want to make us move. So it appears that there are some issues which you need to clarify on this indicator so that you maintain a 3. Yeah? Like you are saying that there is a clear, the issue of legal, I think the legal team did not respond. I don't know whether they responded on that. But the issue of government mandate, I think the way she has explained, it suffices that they have a government mandate has been, yeah. But being mentioned in certain legal instruments, the NFP and their functions, I think that is something which might be missing. So in the spirit of the JE, if a certain indicator, there are some things which are still missing, you can't be at that level. That is the issue. Unless you, then you come and evidence that I have this, which is for that indicator. So I could propose either we make progress by maintaining at a certain level, which you don't have any issues, while waiting for evidence to go for the higher levels. I don't know.
So can we proceed in this regard to the next one? Okay. The next indicator is multi-sectoral coordination mechanism. So your score for this one is in the 4. It says multi-sectoral coordination mechanism for IHR implementation are in place, disseminated, and are being implemented at national, and intermediate level. So what is multi-sectoral coordination? You can see in the footnote. So multi-sectoral coordination mechanism include strategic frameworks, guidelines, procedures, and standard operating procedures, and also plan. This is all about the multi-sectoral coordination mechanism that has been defined on the new JEE tool. So my question is, and do you have this multi-sectoral coordination mechanism, those I have mentioned for IHR implementation? Let me say, leave alone at national level, at intermediate level. It says at intermediate level. So any comment on this point? Any reflection? So I think the line is approaching. I don't know.
The question, I think, it's an issue of appreciating the question. But if you are saying that, do we have multi-sectoral collaboration mechanisms at national and intermediate level? And I think previously that same question was asked, and we gave a number of of opportunities. We have the disaster policy that outlines roles for every sector in terms of dealing with the disasters. The National Disaster Preparedness and Management, housed under the Office of the Prime Minister. We said we have the National Task Force, which is also a multi-sectoral platform. My friend reminded me of the One Health strategy. And then we said at district level, we also have the the Disaster Management and Preparedness Task Force and the District Task Force. The District Task Force is specifically for infectious public health emergencies, but natural disasters are under the Disaster Management Task Force. And then the One Health has also been rolled out. I think she also substituted on that. So this same question, I think, was asked. So I think it's an issue of appreciation of the question that maybe you're asking. That's why we are not quickly responding.
So to ask us about different tools like strategy framework, procedures, SOPs, and the plan. So development of this plan is one issue, but says disseminated, and are being implemented at national and intermediate levels.
Thank you very much. In addition to what the Commissioner has said, I think we just wanted to understand the question. We do have a One Health platform. We have a Public Health Emergency Operations Center. We have regional emergency operations centers as well. And these include members from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Local Government, etc. So I think that would probably answer your question at national and intermediate levels. Every region, for example, Eastern region, there's a place called Mbale, where we have a regional operations center. We have another one at the border with the Congo. And they have specific mandates and they have operational plans. They have, what did you call it? We discussed it last week, I think, or the week before. Ways of operating, standard operating procedures. So I don't know whether these would constitute what you're asking. Thank you.
Arching document is the policy, disaster management. It's if in terms of tangible document, that is the document. And our national multi-hazard framework is another document at Minister of Health level.
Any comment from the external team in this regard? Okay.
Yeah, this is one area that we often struggle with in JEEs. And one way to look at how to unlock ourselves is to look at it systematically. What are the national IHR coordination mechanisms in place? Once you answer that, You will tell me about the TORs, about the NFP, and around the FIOC and things like those. But just identify one IHR national coordination mechanisms in place. Once you do, ask yourself, what are the equivalent mechanisms at subnational level, at intermediate? Equivalent. That's question number one. Question number two, have we disseminated? Let's not talk about IDSR. Yes, IDSR has components of, especially the revised, has components of IHR. Let's not talk about, for instance, you could talk about if you have disseminated the national multi-hazard plan, for instance. It may have some components of coordination, but would you look at the national level multi-hazard plan as the coordination mechanism or framework for IHR? I don't think so. And so the national coordination mechanism is around the NFP. There may be structures at provincial level and district or whatever, first LC level that is equivalent, but have we fully mandated them through disseminating whichever guiding documents at national level that will package them adequately to coordinate, not as a by the way, but by first or primary intention to build capacity for IHR coordination at that level. To me, that is the argument that we need to have.
And maybe to add more on my team lead. So the way I think they have tried to respond, you have, if I understand, then we can assist each other, that you first have the multi-sectoral coordination for IHR with the terms of reference. Did I get it right? The terms of reference is in a draft form. That's okay? So that one, you have an NFP. Also, you have adopted the SOP for the NFP coordination, and you have developed the multi-sectoral coordination mechanism, which involve the terms of reference of the sector focal points for IHR, and you have mechanism of maybe holding meetings and discussing issues of IHR and looking at discussing issues of implementation of your national action plan for health security. You meet regularly, you evaluate. That is, so you have that in place. You have it, right? So if you can shed light on that, and then now we can that to check if that is at national level, what is the equivalent at sub-national level?
Dr. Makumbi, you want to throw more light?
Yes, we have a mechanism. One, the Office of the Prime Minister, one for health emergencies, where donor officials and other partners sit. That's a coordination mechanism at the Office of the Prime Minister. I'm sure, Doctor, you are there. Then at the Ministry of Health, we have what we call a national task, where partners and government officials and other stakeholders like private or civil society sit again. That is also another coordinating mechanism. At the region, we have what we call regional mechanism, whose pivot is the regional EOCs, where at that level, at a functional regional level, there is that IHR coordinating mechanism. And in planning, every year, the Office of the Prime Minister coordinates the planning of IHR activities through NAPS, and even come, and is always by the way launched by either the first deputy prime minister or the prime minister herself. So these are the mechanism for coordination exists without any doubt. So can you answer the next question?
At district level, say something at district
Ah,
level.
now you say also, you also take that one over. But of course, you know, you have already answered it, but I don't know whether they got it. You have already answered it. The district force, the district disaster committee there, all those are again. Please throw more light on those.
Now, let us, for the interest of time, let us keep at level 3, and then the document for HR coordination at the intermediate level, supportive document. So this also requires a side meeting. Yeah. Do you agree with the way forward? Okay, thank you so much. The third indicator is strategy planning for HR, preparedness or health security. So your score is score 3. It says National Action Plan for HR, preparedness or health security is developed and is being implemented, but there is no routine monitoring or updating of activities. Decision makers in government and our legislative bodies at the national level are sensitized to HR and our health security on ad hoc basis. So any issue on this document? I think you have indicated in your priority action number two. It contradicts with this one. Your priority action number 2: advocate for and orient policy makers at the strategic level on HR concepts for buy-in.
I think my comment was clear. What made us score, if I'm is that we had an act within the National Action Plan, but it was not systematically implemented. So we used opportunities, just as we have earlier explained. During the launch, there was in 2018, 19, we had various opportunities for sensitizing the leaders in the different MDAs. We also said that we used the opportunity for the NAPS periodic monitorings to also sensitize the leaders. We say that during COVID, we used the various approaches like cabinet information papers, parliamentary information papers to try and create awareness among the different stakeholders. And even this very opportunity, before when we embarked on this external joint evaluation for this second phase.
Can you put the priority action on the
We also
screen?
had an opportunity to meet parliamentarians and a breakfast meeting to try and tell them what we were planning ahead. And that's the very reason why we didn't go to the next level, because we felt that much as we had an activity, it was not systematically done. We don't have a systematic engagement for different stakeholders, including the strategic leaders and policy makers. So we gave ourselves a 3 because of that.
So level 3 says decision makers in government and legislative bodies at the national level are sensitized to HR and health security on a daily basis. So
Chair, I've already explained.
And here says advocate for and orient policy makers at strategic level on HR concept. Even it says this one for HR concept.
Chair, I've already explained that we have.
So okay, if it's the case, let us rewrite this one. Do you agree with me? The priority action?
I've already explained that we have achieved some milestones. We have also still having what? Things that need more strengthening. There are some MDAs that are a little bit more positive, and there are those that still need more advocacy. So advocacy work is not yet complete, and I think traditional advocacy work is never completed.
At least let's us agree on this level. So decision makers in government and our legislative bodies at the national level as ties to HR and our health security says on ad hoc basis. Let us maintain this one and rewrite the priority action. Do you agree? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So back to you, the coordinator.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we are done.
All right. Yes, I think it's getting more and more interesting with time. And I know he wants to give us those claps, but Dr. Makumbi.
Yes, please.
I'm sure Ngoko is waiting somewhere.
No, yeah, okay.
All right, I hand back to you.
Okay. So, Milton. Just please, let's clap, and then I don't know, Dr. Shikanga could advise whether we go for lunch now, a quick lunch, or we do one more. And since we had our breakfast late, can we do one more before we go for lunch? Okay, clap. Let's clap. Okay, let's clap for the group. Let's clap.
Asante sana. Yongeza tena. As we stand up, because let's stand up for a health. Yes, let's stand up. There is a colleague of mine whom
Let's do that.
he gives us very
Where are
nice
the
exercises
coupons?
sometimes. Maybe I change. This time, Maif, can you take us through a stretch?
We are going for lunch. As we go for lunch, is that not enough stretch? No. I think, Milton,
Yes,
let's go for lunch. Where are the coupons? Can you put up? So please, the coupons are on the other side near the registration desk. As you pass there, where are we going? What? Poolside. Hey, we are going to have lunch at poolside. So please take the coupons from there, and please let's be here by